Aloha. Good evening. Sir, do you know about the Sabbath? No? Miss, have you heard of Jesus Christ? Have you accepted him as your Savior? Don't mind me. I spent so many years in the South Seas in Madagascar. I took every opportunity to spread the gospel to every person I met. Here, in the Sandwich Islands, I preached on Oahu, in Lahaina, and across the island of Hawaii. I've been called the Apostle of the South Seas, but my name is Reverend William Ellis. Can you say Mika? Eliki? That was my name in Hawaii, Mika Eliki. I've also been called a gardener, an author, a printer, a bookbinder, an artist, a gardener, a photographer, a composer of hymns, a singer, an orator, and an explorer, for I was all those things. At an early age, gardening and religion captivated my attention. Father used to let me look over pictures in Captain Cook's voyages. They opened up a new world to me about other races of men. 20 years later, I would stand on the very rock on which Captain Cook fell. Standing in that spot, the picture I gazed upon remained distinct in my memory. The scene peopled with the mournful tragedy of that memorable day. Upon the arrival of myself, Mrs. Ellis, and my Tahitian church members at Honolulu, we were greeted cordially by American missionaries. Always short on manpower, permanent stations were not yet set up on the island of Hawaii. A party of men had planned to tour Hawaiʻi Island. They invited me to join them. So, in July, I left Oahu on a small schooner bound to Hawaii for sandalwood. It stopped in Lahaina, a singularly beautiful port. The level land of the whole district was one continued garden, laid out in beds of taro and yams and sugarcane. I was kindly received by Keopuʻulani and spent the day in conversation with her and the chiefs. They were gratified with my account of instruction on Oahu and were desirous that the people of Lahaina enjoy a Christian education. Everywhere I went, I encouraged the natives to attend services and spoke to them of palapala, reading and prayers. I also learned something of Hawaiian traditions and stories from kupuna I met along the way. I preached on deck as we sailed 30 miles to Kailua, where we commenced our journey on the western shore of the island. We headed south and then circled around the island, east and then north, alternately by foot and canoe, visiting all the principal settlements along the coast and the interior, and spending the Sabbath in each of the 5 large divisions of the island. Governor Kuakini gave us a hearty welcome, and we solicited from him a boat and a guide, Makoa, who was well acquainted with the island. We traversed many miles every day, and each new spot he would drum up an audience for us to deliver our message. In turn, I learned much of the histories and myths of each location.
Kona kaya pua I kalahi, o pua hina no kawi kamali e pua ina vai kamaka o ka pua o no e lua e like a puai me kona kaya pua me kona kaya o pua ke kai maoki oki ke kai maoki oki ke kai mahali noa o kona e hele na kona kawai kawi kamaka o ka opua hua lalai kau mai I luna ka heke ia o nā kona he aina velai o no nā kona he ke kamaka nea o wai ka pākoa ka he ake ke hau I kai leo ka malihini hano hano o kona gai a hua I ka lai o hua ina no kawi kamali e hua ina vai kamaka o ka o hua a ole no e lua e like aku ai me kona kai a hua me kona kai a hua ke kai moki o ke kai mai noa o kona oi kei kanani o kai lua ke kapitala a o nā kona me ka halu vai o mapuana holu olo ai ka ehu o ke kai ke au ho I taili ili ne me hela nei ka vai o pukaiki me kai nari o I ka uhi vai me ka hau anu o mai ano ano o kona kai a hua I ka lai o hua ina no kau I ka mahali e hua ina vai ka maka o ka o hua e like aku ai me kona kai a pua me kona kai o pua ke kai mahoki oki ke kai mahoki oki ke kai malino a kona aloha I no ka waloa karali kapu kapo o ke oua karai huki huki o hali I lua me ka mako kouni a o hiki au karai hiki karai o alai o ke nei ka vai o puhau ka pewa ka palili o ka manini Nini me ka e hai ka koni Ano hano o kona kai o pua I ka lai o pua ina no kau I ka mahali e pua ina vai ka maka o ka o pua o leno e lua e like atu ai me kona kai a pua me kona kai o pua ke kai maoki oki ke kai maoki oki ke kai mahali noa o kona ke kai mahali noa o kona
We passed heaps of stones where lay the bodies of soldiers defeated in the battle of 1819. Kamehameha had, before he died, left government of the islands to Liho and care of the gods and temples to Kekuʻokalani. When Liholiho put an end to idolatry, this battle between the two parties ended in Liholiho's favor. There were a number of persons I conversed with on the island who were present at the unhappy dispute which caused the death of Captain Cook. I visited his last resting place. We also passed over the ground where 40 years earlier, Kamehameha had camped with his warriors before some of his decisive battles. But mostly I sang and prayed and conversed with the people. At Kealakekua, our remarks against intoxication led the villagers to toss heaps of tea roots and vessels of sugarcane juice from which intoxicating drinks were made. More than once, I became too ill to proceed, probably because of bad water. Fresh water is a great luxury on this side of the island. Let me talk a moment about the thirst. At one point, with only brackish water to drink, we hired a man to go 7 miles into the mountains for fresh water, only to have him return with a single calabash. Another time, after a full day of walking, our thirst increasing with each step, we finally lay to sleep on the lava, with only 1 quart of fresh water to share between 5 persons. At midnight, when the moon rose, we continued. At our next landing spot, we had a single word of greeting: water. And we were brought calabashes full, which we drank in copious draughts.
Hālau Mele
Noma Makoa, our guide, well, he disappeared with our bags. At each new spot, there was no Makoa. We were obliged to join some travelers who were heading our same way as guides. One night we lodged in a large cave. At its mouth, we kindled a fire whose glimmer illuminated the strange features of our lava apartment. The galaxy appeared unusually luminous. And glancing northeast, we saw a broad column of light rising at a distance. Above it were smoky vapors tinged with red. And no doubt this column arose from a large crater. So, in the morning, we ascended from our subterranean dormitory and continued our journey towards the smoke. Sometimes the ferns were set so thick they were almost impassable. Another time, there was a chasm so deep we had to go considerably out of our way to pass around it. There was a time when we traversed over miles of a dry waste of volcanic sand that sank up to our ankles with each step, our eyes in considerable pain from the sun-blinding rays and the sand driven by gusts of trade wind. We traversed over uneven surfaces that were in some places as smooth as glass, and we were forced to take great caution not to fall. When we found low bushes of red and yellow berries, we ate every one that came our way. Our guides called loudly for us to desist. These ʻOhu berries belonged to Pele, and our kapu until offered to her. Well, in our hunger and thirst, we continued clearing the bushes, until all of a sudden, the great crater of Kilauea burst upon our view. We suddenly found ourselves at the edge of a steep precipice, with a vast plain before us, sunk 15 miles in circumference, 400 feet below where we were standing. A mile distant from the precipice from which we stood was the great crater. We walked around to the north where we could descend to a deeper plain, using the greatest of caution, as fragments of rock frequently gave way, and using all our care, we reached the bottom, not without several falls and bruises. For some distance, the sunken plain sounded hollow under our feet, and then we came to the edge of the crater where we froze speechless. Immediately before us yawned an immense gulf, a mile wide, 2 miles across, filled with a flood of liquid fire rolling to and fro. 50 craters rose like conical islands from the surface of the burning lake, emitting smoke and flames. Many vomited from their mouths streams of florid lava that rolled in blazing torrents down their sides into the boiling mass.
kapuaʻi la wea e ola mako a mauloa e komo maroko hale mau e mauna pu'u e ola e pele 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 e pele huaina e komo maloko hale mau e mauna pu'u e ola e pele 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 e pele huaina pau hama'i o ka lani ani pau hama'i o ka lani ani pau hama'i o ka lani ani.
We spent the night on rocks overhanging this abyss. Our guide said it was the only place we could pass the night undisturbed by Pele. Our guides also said that in the very area where we rested, Pele had not so long ago claimed the lives of 80 people. When Chief Kapuaʻi camped near the volcanoes with his warriors, a sudden eruption diminished his forces, which aided the cause of his rival, Kamehameha. Why was Pele angry with Kapuaʻi, we asked? Perhaps he ate the ohela berries, they told us.
ia mai ana kapuana ike ia I kanani o hale mau mau.
On leaving, we collected porous lava and filaments called Pele's hair. The ground in this area was so hot that those who came for sandalwood in the area were known to cook their food, whether animal or vegetable, simply by burying it in the earth. Descending to Kapuaʻi, our path opened up onto a charming valley, encircling a beautiful lake, its surface disturbed only by the boys and girls sporting in its water. What a contrast from the fiery panorama we had just beheld! At about 3 p.m., we approached Kaimu. This was the birthplace of Maui and the residence of most of his relations. He was a young man belonging to the governor who had been sent with the canoe and, since leaving Honuapo, had acted as our guide. He walked before us as we entered the village. The old people from the houses greeted him and welcomed him as he passed. The young people, the numerous young people, the men and women, came out of the houses to meet him and saluted him by touching noses and wept for joy at his arrival. Some removed his hat and crowned him with a garland of flowers, a crown of flowers, and hung round his neck necklaces composed of the sweet-scented plants resembling ivy, or necklaces composed of the nuts of the fragrant pandanus. Multitudes of young people and children chanted his name and the name of his parents and the place and circumstances of his birth, and the most remarkable events in his family's histories in a lively song, which afterwards he told us had been composed on the occasion of his birth. We reached the Waikea district of Hilo. The morning of the 11th was cloudy, with rain, which didn't clear out until about 10 a.m. The greater part of the day we employed in examining the harbor in the district. We were highly gratified with the fertility of the soil and the luxuriance of the verdure. The inhabitants of Waikea are peculiarly favored in having woods producing timbers, such as they use for building, within 3 or 4 miles of their settlement. whereas the natives in other parts of the island have to fetch it from a much greater distance. The face of the country in the vicinity of Waiakea is the most beautiful that we had yet seen, which is probably occasioned by the humidity in the atmosphere, the frequent rains that fall here, and the long repose which the district has enjoyed from volcanic eruptions. The light and fertile soil is formed by decomposed lava, and the whole of it is covered in luxuriant vegetation, and the greater part of it portioned out into plantations where plantains, bananas, sugarcane, taro, potatoes, and melons grew to the greatest perfection. The groves of coconuts and breadfruit trees are seen in every direction, loaded with fruit, or clothed in umbrageous foliage. The houses here are larger and better built than most of the districts through which we passed. Taking every circumstance into consideration, this appears to be a most suitable spot for a mission station. The fertility of the soil, the abundance of fresh water, the convenience of the harbor, the dense population, and the favorable reception we were met with all give it a stronger claim to immediate attention than any other place we'd yet seen, except Kailua. There are 400 houses in the bay, probably not less than 2,000 inhabitants who would be immediately embraced in the operations of a mission station here. Besides the populous places to the north and south, will be occasionally visited by the itinerant preacher from Waiakea.
Honne honne ike ahi ahi. Honne honne ike ahi ahi. Ha'ahe o Hawaii. Moku o ke ave. ʻOhu. Kapuaʻi o ka lehua. E ua.
daybreak on the 14th, after morning worship with the people who crowded our house, we made arrangements for our departure. Soon after 6 a.m., we embarked on board our canoe and passed over the reef into the deep waters on the western side of the bay. The weather was calm, and the men labored with their paddles until about 8 a.m. when the Mahealani, the east wind, suddenly sprung up, and we were wafted pleasantly along the shore. The country by which we sailed was fertile, beautiful, and apparently populous. The numerous plantations on the eminences and along the sides of the deep valleys and ravines by which they were intersected with streams meandering through them into the sea presented altogether a most agreeable prospect. The coast was bold, and the rock evidently volcanic. We frequently saw water gushing out of the hollows in the face of the rock, flowing in cascades from the top to the bottom. The valley of Waipio is a place frequently celebrated in the songs and traditions of Hawaii as being abode of Akea and Miru, the first kings of the island, of Umi and Riroa, kings who figured prominently in their history. It is also noted as the residence of Hoʻokau, who was king of the island in this part of the island, who apparently had been one of the Neros of the Sandwich Islands, and whose memory is execrable among the people on account of his cruelties. We afterwards endeavored to learn something from them regarding their opinions of a state of existence after death. Some said that all souls of the departed went to the Po, the place of night, and were annihilated or eaten by the gods there. Others said that some went to the regions of Akea and Miru. Akea, they said, is the first king of the island. At the expiration of his reign, which terminated with his life at Waipio, the place where we then were, he descended to a region far below called Kapuaʻi, and founded a kingdom there. Miru, who had been his successor and reigned in Hamakua, descended to Akea when he died and shared government of the place with him.
Hele mai hanale.
Here, we took an affectionate leave of Waipio. We stepped into a canoe, which Arapai had provided to convey us as far as Honokane, the first village in the division of Kohala. At about 7 in the evening, we reached Halaua, the residence of Mio Mioi, the friend and favorite of the late King Kamehameha. He gave us a hearty welcome, and the accustomed courtesy of a Hawaiian chief, saying, "Our house is large, and there are plenty of sleeping mats for us." Mio Mioi, the headman of Halaua, conducted us down to a village on the seashore, where he pointed out several places made remarkable by their connection to the early history of Kamehameha. Halaua is a large district on the eastern coast of the island. And if not the birthplace of Kamehameha, was the land which he inherited from his parents. And along with the small district in the division of Kona, was the land which the only land he possessed prior to the death of Kalaniʻo Puʻu, and the celebrated Battle of Keʻei, which took place shortly afterward. Kamehameha seemed to have been early distinguished by his energy, enterprise, decision of character, and unwearied perseverance in the accomplishment of his objects. Added to these, he possessed a vigorous constitution and was unrivaled in all the warlike games and athletic exercises of his country. To these qualities of mind and body, he is probably indebted for his extensive power and protracted dominion which he exercised over the Sandwich Islands. In early life, he associated himself with a number of youthful chiefs of his own age and disposition, into whom he had the happy art of instilling, on all occasions, his own spirit, and inspired them with his own resolve. By these means, he most effectually secured their attachment and cooperation. Great undertakings appear to have been his delight, and achievements deemed by others as impractical were those which he regarded as suitable enterprises for his exercises, for his prowess. Mio Mioi, he led us down to a spot in a small bay, where he pointed out to us a place within the bay where the original coastline had been a perpendicular pile of rocks. Here, Kamehameha had, with his companions, by digging through the rocks, and made a good road with a regular and gradual descent from the high ground to the sea, up and down, from which fishing canoes could be easily drawn. Having seen the most remarkable places in the village, we took our leave of Mio Mioi and resumed our journey and proceeded to the north point of the island.
Check 2. Kua oe I ka malanai a ke kipupu. Nolu ka maka o ka ohabai a uli. Nini a e hakapua o Kapuaʻi I ke anu kana hele o waika. Kua kula oe I ka malanai a ke kipupu. Nolu ka maka o ka ohabai a uli. ka pani loa e lau ka hua ka I hele I ka pani loa a he aloha e a he aloha e a he aloha e a he aloha e
Our 66-day trip culminated in Kailua, where the governor had begun building a chapel on the site of the first mission station in Hawaii. That day, I preached before a quiet congregation of 800. There were no mallets beating clothes, no sporting, no canoes. It was the dawn of a truly gratifying Sabbath day in Hawaii. I returned to Oahu by way of Maui, and in a key moment of providence, I landed in Lahaina to find Kapuaʻi gravely ill. Chiefs, missionaries, and great crowds of people had gathered round to bid their final farewell. I went to her side and was asked to fulfill her one dying wish. This good queen, who had faithfully given her life to Christ, wanted to be baptized. I was honored to perform that solemn ceremony, Hawaii's very first, just before her spirit left its mortal home. Once, while sailing home from Madagascar, I heard a cry, "Wreck! Wreck!" And there, on a raft, up to their waists in the sea, I saw two figures, and no one uttered a word as the men, numb and swollen, were lifted into the boat. A few moments later, the captain called to me, "Mr. Ellis, we have a Sandwich Islander here. Come speak to him." The man was seated, his head bent. "Aloha, aloha e no aloha." "Salutations, dear friend." He looked up and returned the greeting, and then I sang to him. "E akua he molele, ke akua no kako." God, perfection of goodness, is our God. And then his countenance brightened, and he sang the next lines. "Mai kaiva leheva ole, honoloa ola mau." So pure and sacred, everlasting and righteous. "Where did you learn that?" I asked. "In the school of the missionaries on Oahu," he replied. I wrote that hymn. It had been more than 30 years since I left Hawaii. It was an unexpected satisfaction to find that the Christian sentiments embodied in a simple hymn had afforded consolation and support to a man following the perils of shipwreck and the prospect of death. As for the last sailing of my ship, I remained of sound mind and worked tirelessly in missionary service until my last breath. It was on the Holy Sabbath that I bid a quiet farewell.
Stand up for Hawaiʻi Aloha, please.